If Yaddle was Sifo Dyas, so I think that the character of Yaddle should have just replaced the character of Sifo Dyas, because Sifo Dyas was just mentioned briefly in Attack of the Clones as the Jedi Master from the Jedi Council who commissioned the creation of the Clone Army, and of course we learn more about him in the Clone Wars series, and of course there was information on him back in the Expanded Universe, which was quite different from the Clone Wars series, but I wouldn't have created the character of Sifo Dyas at all. I would have just had Yaddle take that role. So if I had created Attack of the Clones, I would have had Prime Minister Lama Su say, tell your Master Yaddle that the clone army is ready, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi would have been like, Master, and then Prime Minister Lama Su would have said, Master Yaddle, she is still a high-ranking member of the Jedi Council, is she not? And Obi-Wan Kenobi would have said, Master Yaddle was killed almost 9 years ago, and I would have made it 9 years instead of 10 years. I would have made the clone army be in production for 9 years instead of 10 years. I would have given an extra year of space, and I'll explain that in a moment. But basically, in Attack of the Clones, it would have been revealed that Yaddle commissioned the creation of the clone army, but was killed 9 years ago. And that would explain why Yaddle is not on the Jedi Council in Attack of the Clones. That would explain why Shakti replaced Yaddle on the Jedi Council. And then, of course, I imagine this would have retconned Yaddle's death in that book where she fights Granta Omega, and Yaddle saves Anakin's life, and Yaddle sacrifices herself to save the lives of all the people on an entire planet. So I think that novel from the Expanded Universe actually came out before Attack of the Clones. I'm not sure. I believe it came out before Attack of the Clones. So of course they would overwrite that novel. However, then I assume more Expanded Universe material would come in that would explain Yaddle's story and how she ended up dying. And also in Attack of the Clones, I wouldn't have Yoda refer to Dooku as his Padawan or apprentice. I wouldn't have Yoda be Dooku's master at all. So, in Attack of the Clones, I would have Yoda fight Dooku, obviously, but the duel would be a little bit more one-sided, where Dooku would be able to keep up for some time, and I would give him some good fighting time, but Yoda would manage to injure Dooku by cutting his legs. Ironic, because Dooku cut Obi-Wan Kenobi in the leg. But yeah, Yoda would cut Dooku in the legs, and Yoda would be in a position where he could either kill Dooku or capture him, but of course Dooku would still use the pillar and make it fall on Obi-Wan and Anakin so that Yoda would have to divert his attention and try to catch the pillar where Dooku would be able to escape. So that would happen. But when Yoda cuts Dooku's legs, I would have Yoda say something to Dooku along the lines of, fought well you have, Dooku. Your master, Yaddle, would be very proud of you, and I would reveal that it was Yaddle who was Dooku's master. And of course, I would also make it so that Yoda and Mace Windu would not be able to make the connection between Yaddle and Dooku in this case. They would not be able to deduce that it was Dooku who might have had something to do with Yaddle's disappearance. So that would happen. And so I would have those changes made in Attack of the Clones. And I would of course, have some material about Yaddle in the Expanded Universe and how it was Dooku who got rid of her or something like that. But basically, later on in the Clone Wars, I would not explore Yaddle's story at all. I would not explore Yaddle's disappearance or origins, so that whole episode, Sifo Dyas episode, I would not do something like that with Yaddle. But later in Tales of the Jedi, with Dooku, I would have somewhat of a backstory where Dooku maybe wasn't being chosen by any other master, but it was Master Yaddle, who was maybe the only master who wanted to take Dooku as her Padawan, and she took him as his Padawan, and then they were on some missions together where Dooku began to lose faith with the Jedi, and something along those lines, and then Yaddle and Dooku are doing well together, but they also have some tense moments and some disagreements. And after Dooku leaves, maybe Dooku goes to Naboo for Qui-Gon Jinn's funeral, where he talks to the members of the Jedi Council, but of course Yaddle did not attend Qui-Gon Jinn's funeral in The Phantom Menace, so the Jedi Council might say something to Dooku along the lines of, Yaddle misses you or something, or whatever, blah blah blah, and yes, I would have Dooku leave the Jedi Order before the Phantom Menace. So yes. Anyway, and then of course in the final episode for Dooku and Tales of the Jedi, I would have Dooku and Yaddle meet again for some reason, and then maybe as a final test, Darth Sidious has Dooku kill Yaddle to prove his loyalty, and Dooku become a Sith Lord. But in this case, Dooku killing Yaddle would have much more meaning because Yaddle would have been Dooku's master and Dooku would have been Yaddle's Padawan, so there would be more of a personal connection, killing the master to killing the previous master for the new master. So previous master Yaddle, new master Sidious. And basically Dooku killing Yaddle would be a feat that Anakin was not able to accomplish because Darth Vader was never, or Darth Vader killed Obi-Wan Kenobi later, but not before. So Darth Vader was brutally injured by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar. And many years later, he managed to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Death Star, but only because Obi-Wan Kenobi basically allowed it to happen. So it would add a lot of depth to Dooku's character to kill his former master. And it would also add a lot of elevate Dooku's character a little bit more because he would have been able to kill his former master, whereas Anakin was originally not able to. So I would get rid of the character of Sifo Dyas altogether and just replace it with Yaddle and have that be the story. Now, of course, the counter argument could be that I could just use Yaddle Poof instead, and Yaddle Poof could have been the Jedi who commissioned the creation of the clone army, and the reason Yaddle Poof is not on the Jedi Council and that he was replaced by Coleman Trepper is because Yaddle Poof was killed before the Attack of the Clones. However, the reason George Lucas took out Yaddle Poof from Attack of the Clones, the reason Yaddle Poof was eliminated, was because Yaddle Poof has a long neck, and George Lucas was afraid that would get confused with the Kaminoans, even though, to me, and to really everyone, Yaddle Poof and the Kaminoans look very different. But of course, there are some people who are confused about that. So, I mean, I just wouldn't use Yaddle Poof for that, because I would rather use Yaddle, or maybe I could use Yaddle Poof, who knows. And the real reason the character of Sifo Dyas was created is because it was a pseudonym for Sidious. So basically, the original idea was to have Darth Sidious go to the Kaminoans and commission the creation of a clone army, and Darth Sidious would trick the Kaminoans by telling them that he was some Jedi named Sido Dyas, so S-I-D-O, or Sido Dyas, whatever, however you want to say it. But the creators of Attack of the Clones did not like how the name Sido Dyas or Sido Dyas looked or sounded. They wanted to use an F instead of a D. George Lucas wanted to use an F instead of a D, so and it ended up being Sifo Dyas, and Sifo Dyas ended up being an entirely new character. Although if they had gone with the idea that it was Darth Sidious who pretended to be a Jedi and create the clone army, it would have created a lot of confusion with the Jedi and a lot of mistrust as well, because some random guy named Sido Dyas went and created the clone army, and the Jedi knew nothing about it, like what's going on. So Jedi impersonator alert. So that would have happened. But basically, I would have gone this route with Yaddle. I would have had Yaddle take that role. Although, maybe if I didn't do this with Yaddle, Yaddle could be in the sequel trilogy. Because Yaddle is much younger than Yoda, and Yoda species probably have a long lifespan, as far as we know, in both canon and legends. All the members of their species have relatively long lifespans. So, yes, but so if maybe Yaddle, maybe I could have gone with the line, maybe in Attack of the Clones, I would have gone with Master Yaddle disappeared 9 years ago, and then maybe she reappears in the sequel trilogy. And of course, the sequel trilogy, by sequel trilogy, I mean that if I had written the sequel trilogy, so not what we actually got, but if I had done it. So yes, many interesting ways this could have gone.